On June 10th, 2026, I testified in front of the New York City Council in support of Queenslink. Now, you might be wondering, how did I get here? Well, a few weeks ago, a project called Queenslink, which I did a video on here, asked that they needed help for something on June 10th, but what exactly was it? Well, basically, every spring, the mayor's office releases this, an executive budget which determines the spending for the fiscal year for the entire city. The city council then needs to approve and edit this budget, but before doing so, opens up all of City Hall to the public to hear and voice out the concerns of the people. Unfortunately, the Mamdani administration allocated $43 million in spending dedicated to Queensway for its construction and development. And after Zoran Mamdani said this on a radio show hosted in New York City, I knew I had to step in.
We go to Mars in Queens. You're on WNYC with Mayor Mamdani. Hi, Mars.
When you were campaigning, you said that you were in support of Queenslink, that you said that you were ready for Queenslink, but now you're walking back on your word, and now you're blocking Queenslink, but you know it would impact a bunch of Queens riders. You know we live in a transit desert. Queens does not have as much access to public transport besides buses. And I feel like that you walking back on your word and blocking Queenslink doesn't make the most sense right now.
So I really appreciate your advocacy, and I want to be very clear that we're moving forward with Queensway in a way that does not preclude future rail activation.
Mars, does that make you more enthusiastic about the mayor's direction on this?
Not quite, because it still feels like, you know, this is kind of like a contradiction, and like you say one thing, but then you're doing another within your policy.
The key issue here is that in the interim amount of time, I think that it's important for us to be able to deliver a park for those who need more green space, and the delivery of a park does not preclude us from any kind of future rail activation.
After a few days of talking to myself and making countless edits, I asked for help from one of my writer friends, you may know him from another video, and my grandparents, both of whom are avid autists. After finally printing out 1 billion copies and settling on a final version, I made my way to City Hall accompanied by another friend of mine, Unique. People who testify in person don't need to register in advance, so I just walked right into City Hall. Luckily, even if you weren't physically at the event, anyone can still submit a written testimony to the council. If you're watching this video on June 10th, 2026, you have 72 hours to write and submit to the council before it's reviewed. So if you haven't already, write to your local representatives here, ask them to block Queensway, and support Queenslink. Now, without a further ado, the testimony. To the members of the council and the finance committee, my name is Matthew Monhay. I've lived here my entire life and currently reside in Middle Village. I'd like to tell a story. In the 1960s, a large rail line was abandoned due to a decrease in business. A local grassroots organization rose up and submitted a proposition to the council to revitalize the corridor and bring transit and trails back to the area, serving hundreds of thousands of people in what is otherwise a transit desert. Now, to some of you, this may sound like a project in New York City called Queenslink, but in actuality is describing the current Beltline project in Atlanta. Even though the Beltline project was initiated 27 years ago, not a cent was spent, a train built, or an inch of track revitalized. Why? The city decided to build the park first. This story serves as a cautionary tale for the current council. Currently, $43 million is allocated in the mayor's executive budget for Queensway, a project that would redesignate the sitting rail line in Queens as parkland. I'm here to warn not only the council, but also those around us that this is a terrible idea. According to New York's interpretation of the public trust doctrine, once a park is built, it becomes increasingly impossible, if not incredibly rare, to do any further development. Any transit addition is delayed and debated indefinitely until effectively becoming canceled. We need more than promises from the council or the mayor to eventually integrate rail, because as history has shown us, it doesn't work this way. Luckily, a proposed alternative to Queensway called Queenslink has a fully laid out plan to revitalize the existing rail and integrate 33 new acres of parkland, the best of both worlds. But it's being ignored by the mayor and the council. Now, I live in Middle Village, but I go to college in downtown Brooklyn. The only reasonable way to get there is by taking the Q53 down the crowded Woodhaven Boulevard, and let me tell you, there are 10,000 riders on that bus, 70,000 weekly, 3.64 million yearly. That is 10,000 more weekly riders than the least used subway. The rail is right there. Why aren't we using it? This last year was the first time I ever voted in a local election, and I am proud to have voted for my representative Phil Wong and Mayor Mamdani. But right now, it feels as if you're turning your back on the community and depriving transit from the people who need it most. I am urging the council to learn from the mistakes of their colleagues in Atlanta, take time and look into the possibility of Queenslink, block the mayor, cut Queensway from the executive budget. Otherwise, you turn your back on the people you promised to improve the city for. Do not make this mistake.
Thank you, Chairperson Lee, members of the Finance Committee.
How those conversations have been going.
Sorry, could you quickly rephrase?
I'm just wondering how conversations have been going because I know, because I've been hearing about Queensway, Queenslink from other elected officials, and just wondering how the conversations have been going in terms of trying to find some sort of middle ground.
Right. So I know that, at least from my perspective, I'm not officially affiliated with Queenslink. I'm merely just someone who lives in the area and wants to express my support. It seems to me that Queenslink is mostly grassroots, and it tends to be ignored or shoved aside by other organizations such as Queensway or the mayor, simply because we're not mainstream. I know that Queenslink and Queensway have tried to work together in the past, and it has resulted in unproductive, uncommunicative debates, which led us to nowhere. And so, again, I'm not an official representative of Queenslink, but it is of my belief that the council should just cut the Queensway allocated budget and give more time to bring Queenslink and Queensway potentially back to the table, because I feel that racing each other is just not going to get us anywhere. I think we need to work together, and I think we need to collaborate before we screw this up by going too fast.
We were hoping that would be Mayor Mamdani.
I would also like to quickly add that under the public trust doctrine, if this park is built, power to continue to build and alienate this park would be relinquished to Albany, so the city council would lose a lot of their power and influence in this case.
Okay, thank you for that.
I truly am grateful to experience such a meaningful and powerful moment in partaking in local government, and I cannot encourage others enough to do the same if given the opportunity. I truly had a great time meeting and working with everyone today, and I heavily encourage you to check out the 11-hour live stream of the event found at this link. The Queenslink testimonies can be found here. You should give them a listen. Everyone made some great points, and it really changed my outlook on the entire situation. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Nixon 5, no way to Queensway.